Hello, my cookies. Welcome to Russell Cooks. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I have a very special dish. It's super flavorful. One of my all-time favorites. It is like the national dish, Vietnam. It's called pho. It is an incredibly flavorful broth. And then you have some rice noodles, typically a little bit of meat, and then some veg. And be taking a few shortcuts because I don't have as much time as I'd like to make something like this, but still gonna be really flavorful, still gonna be delicious, still gonna be, hopefully, a one-pot meal. Now that we know what we're doing, gather our ingredients. You're going to need some ground beef. 80-20 is perfect, this is 1 pound. You're also gonna need, let's say an 8 to 1 pound New York strip. Now you can freeze this and slice it thin, or if you have a store near you, like an H Mart, they sell thinly sliced meat. This is perfect. Takes away some of my work. Otherwise, New York strip, ribeye, slice it thin. In order to slice it very thin, you're going to want to freeze it for 30 to 40 minutes. You're going to need some cilantro, some ginger, Thai basil, some scallions or green onions. I like to put a little bit of lemongrass in mine. I don't know how traditional that is. I like it. Rice noodles, about a pound of these, and you want them about 1/8 of an inch thick. You're also going to need some beef broth. I've got some beef bone broth. We're still going to fortify it. That's what the ground beef is for. We're going to make it really intense. You're also going to need some fish sauce. You need lime, 1 large onion, or 2 small ones. For our seasoning, you're going to need some whole cloves. You're going to need some cinnamon sticks, and you're going to need some star anise or anise. Obviously, you're going to need some salt. You're also going to need some peppercorns. And last but not least, you're going to need some sriracha and or hoisin sauce for a garnish. Now that we've gathered up the entire supermarket worth of ingredients, let's get cooking. It's going to be a lot of prep, but we're going to try and multitask here. So first things first, I need to remove some impurities from this ground meat. This is pretty traditional. You don't want like the scum on top. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this beef. I'm just going to break it up into little balls, little bits, kind of disperse it around. So you don't want it too big, but you don't want tiny little bits. I'm just going to cover it with about 1 inch of water, bring it up to a boil and boil for a couple minutes, and then we're going to drain and rinse. Let's start prepping the rest of our ingredients. I'm going to start with my onion. This is a large onion. If you have 2 small ones, you can maybe halve them. I'm going to actually cut this through the root end into 6 pieces. Through the root end so it stays together, please. So we're going to throw a couple of these in to cook and help flavor our broth, but I'm going to save some, slice them thin, and they're going to go on top. This is going to be a beautiful dish. I'm really excited for it. Fish sauce. I like to do about 1/3 cup here, but we might not add all of it all at once. All right, I'm just going to take a piece of ginger. I'm just going to peel it. You can peel it a little bit better than I can. That's fine. I don't really like wasting time, so I just use my blade. Kind of do it like an orange, like I'm supreming an orange here. This is a pretty wide piece of ginger. Let's call it 2 inches long. If you have a skinnier piece, maybe do 4 inches, but 2 inches for me is fine. I'm just going to cut it into thin little rings here. So I like lemongrass here, so I'm just going to trim a little bit off, cut this down the middle, and I like to bruise it up a bit, so I just hit it with the back. Gets the oils going. Let's do a cinnamon stick. Let's do 1. Cinnamon's potent. Star anise, star anise. However many I have, we're going to put in 2, 4, 6. I got 6. Whew, that's potent too. Clove, also potent. I got whole clove here. Let's see, whatever I get out in my hand, I'll put in. We'll do 7 cloves. That's a good way to cook, right? Just random. Ooh, look at this. All right, let's go on over. Look at all this fuzzy, foamy yuckiness. This is the stuff we're getting out. We're just gonna boil this for a couple minutes, dump it out, rinse it out, and then we're gonna get our broth going. Get rid of the scum. I'm rinsing out my pot now. I'm rinsing the meat very gently. All right, pot goes back, meat goes back. Let's build our broth. Let's assemble our ingredients. I'm gonna leave 1/3 of my onion here. I'm gonna put the rest over into my pot. I got my lemongrass in there, my cloves, star anise, my ginger, my cinnamon stick. Now it's time for the broth. I'm gonna start with however much you can fit. So 10 to 12 cups. So this is a quart, so 3 quarts if you got it. You guys know how flavorful this is gonna be. I mean, just look at this. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of sugar. We can always season with more afterwards. I'm also going to add, let's start with 1 teaspoon of salt. That would be table salt. So maybe 1.5 teaspoons of kosher here. Now, the point is to have it over seasoned. Now, we can adjust it afterward, but you want it salty, kind of overly seasoned, so that when you pour it over the noodles and the beef and they absorb it, that everything is nicely and balanced and nicely seasoned and you don't have to add anything. It's a fine balance. Let's also get our fish sauce in there. I'm gonna add a 1/3 cup fish sauce here. That's pretty salty too. Last but not least, I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of whole peppercorns. Bring it up to a boil, drop it down to a simmer, 40 to 60 minutes. Meanwhile, let's get our noodles prepped. For the noodles, you need to soak them first. I'm gonna put them in a large bowl and I'm gonna cover them with the hottest tap water I have. And I'm gonna let them sit for about 10 minutes. You want them pliable. They're not gonna be fully cooked. So I got about a pound here. Let's also get our cilantro and our scallions and our Thai basil all set. These leftover onions, just gonna slice them thin. 1/8 inch, 1/16 inch. If you're using 2 small onions and you did halves, maybe cut one of the halves in half. Washing my scallions, green onions, whatever you wanna use here. Not really gonna use a lot of the white part. Just slice it thin. It's gonna be a nice little garnish. We're gonna get our allium and our onioniness from this raw onion. So this is just a little bit more of a depth. And also, it looks nice. For our cilantro, I like to keep it relatively whole leaf, so I'll trim some off. Okay, let's get our limes. You're gonna wanna serve this with lime. I got my Thai basil. I'm just gonna pick some leaves off here. We've brought up to a simmer. You want to drop your heat to low or medium low. You want to maintain a gentle simmer for 40 to 60 minutes. Really infuse that broth with all those flavors. I got my drained noodles here. Just going to cover them. I don't want them to dry out. I let them soak hot tap water, as hot as it can get. Soak them for about 10 minutes. These are 1/8 inch noodles. They're the small size. If you did medium, you might need to go up to 15 minutes. All right, this has simmered for about 45 minutes. I am now gonna take out all the stuff that was in there, the ground beef, the ginger, everything. I'm gonna strain it out. Now, ideally, you do this through a fine mesh strainer. You could even line it with cheesecloth. I'm not gonna bother with that. You're gonna want it to have between 10 and 12 cups. So if you need to add a little bit more to get there, do it. If you wanna add water, that's fine. You don't wanna open up another beef stock. That's totally fine. I'm gonna taste it for seasoning. I'm tasting for sweetness. I want it balanced. I'm also tasting for salt. I want it relatively salty. Let's give it a taste. It's not salty enough though. I'm gonna add maybe half a teaspoon of salt here. Let's assemble our bowl. I am going to put this on low heat over here. I want it hot. I want it simmering. I want it between 200 and 210 degrees. Let's assemble our bowl. So I got my rice noodles here. Remember, they've been soaked. They're pliable, but they're not fully cooked. That's going to happen in just a few minutes. Let's get our meat. I got thin slices of meat here. I'm just going to kind of shingle it on top. I don't want it to take up the whole thing. Thin slices. All right, now I'm gonna add my toppings. So I'm gonna add a little bit of this onion. I'm gonna add a little bit of the scallion. This is my childhood cereal bowl. We had 4 of them, we're down to 1. It's got a little handle so you can pick it up and drink all that chocolate milk from your Cocoa Krispies. All right, I got my boiling hot broth now. I'm just gonna pour it over the meat, and you wanna kind of cook the meat. Oh, it just smells so good. Let's get our Thai basil leaves. The little ones are the sweet ones. All right, I'm gonna put a little bit of cilantro down here too. I already have my onions and scallions, but I'm gonna put a little bit more scallion. Why not? All right, now we're gonna get a little bit of sriracha. Look at the meat. It's cooked. Some of the fat is rendered off. It's become super tender. So now let's just do our little drizzle of sriracha here. Let's dig in. Look at that. We got a little bit of the meat. It's a little steamy. Some Thai basil, some scallions. Let's take a bite. Oh my God. Chewiness from the steak. It's so rich and beefy. And then you get the beef broth that comes in with all these flavors. The sriracha hit me right in the middle, carried all the way to the end. Cilantro, Thai basil, tie everything together. Pick it up, take a sip. You get that star anise, you get that clove, you get the lemongrass, you get the onion, and it's just so beefy. Oh, lime, I didn't put lime in. This is a dish. I absolutely love this. Thanks so much for tuning in. That was Beef Pho. I really hope you enjoyed what you saw. Don't forget to follow me on YouTube, Twitch. I'm also on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks again for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.